on the road because I'd like to start talking. My name is Chris Kemp and I'm a counselor at East High School, so I'm in the counseling department. I want to thank you all for being here. I know you guys have hectic lives, but this process going through it, especially the first time, can kind of be a little daunting if you've never done it before. Before I introduce our speaker, I am saying there's going to be like a email going out to all seniors and their families tomorrow to complete the survey, and there's a couple other links. Please do that so it'll help us improve this evening. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter. His name is Ben Soman. He's Senior Assistant Director of Financial Aid from Marian University and has over 20 years of experience, and he's been with us before. So, welcome.
Hi everybody, thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. I have to say, you're giving up an evening to be here, so that's great that you could be here. It's supposed to rain from what I've seen at some point tonight, so I'm glad you didn't have to give up like the nicest night of the year. I did this the other night on Wednesday in North Fond du Lac at Horace Mann High School, and there was, I expected a smaller crowd than this, because, much smaller school, and there was a fraction of what, I was hoping that there would be, and it was literally like, yeah, it's really nice out, and it's probably not going to be anytime soon. So it's like, yeah, I really can't blame you for not being there for that. It's great to know we are being live streamed, and there's going to be a record of everything I say here that you can hold me to. So hopefully everything is easy to understand. Anyways, I'm Ben Soman. I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Financial Aid at Marian University. Been working at Marian since 2001. So I've been doing this a long time. I do want to give you a heads up. If you're a parent, though, that you've gone through this before, that's great. And that you're coming back for more. You've been here before. I've been coming down here to West Bend for like the last 10 years. So good, quality when you see it when it comes to presenters. But I do want to give a heads up that this is going to be the last year that the FAFSA is done in the current form. The FAFSA is going to be undergoing a big change next year. So if you have younger kids and want to get an idea what the FAFSA is going to be like next year, and you say, oh, I've already been to that, I don't need that. Hold on a second, you might need it. We haven't gotten the finalization on what it's going to exactly look like, but they're going to be looking at a few different things. So this is the way things are for this year. Things may be a little bit different in the future, so I just didn't want to give you a heads up on that. Hey, I also want to give a shout out to all the students who are here tonight. This is really awesome that there's as many students here, or at least very young looking parents. But that's great because I always really love it when students are here with their parents because this really affects you more than it affects mom or dad. So I'm really glad to see that you're showing the initiative with your education, or good on you, mom and dad, to force them to be here. So we're going to talk about like what the goal is about financial aid. Sometimes people aren't exactly sure on that. We're going to talk about how we determine financial need, and how we determine financial need dictates how we determine your financial aid. We don't just pull numbers out of the air. It might seem like that occasionally, but that's not actually how it works. We're going to talk a lot about how you apply and how you do the FAFSA. We're going to talk about some different types of aid, how to compare aid awards, so you can compare apples to apples. I'm going to go through some frequently asked questions as well, but I'm also going to stick around for any questions that you might have at the end. Because I understand if you don't want to ask a question about your personal finances in front of a room full of people that you kind of know. That's kind of the worst crowd to ask things in front of if it's dealing with like personal financial information or things like divorce or things like that you really don't want to talk about in front of people. So the goal of financial aid is to get your kid out of the house. And I'm kidding. The goal of financial aid is really to help people pay for college. When financial aid in like really the current sense started, it started out with the government giving money to people who went off to World War II and came back, and helping them to pay for college so they could learn a trade, or they could learn a skill, or they could get a degree. And then it became, well, we want to be able to give access to people who are low income as well. And then it became, oh, we want to just make it accessible to anyone, so that it can kind of level out the playing field. So it's not just the ultra wealthy who are going to school. It's anyone can have access. Financial aid is really meant to be a bridge. And on one side, there's a cost of school. On the other side, there's the amount that you can afford to pay. For some people, it's a really small bridge. Sometimes you really don't even need a bridge. That's wonderful if that's the case. That's probably not here because of that, though. Sometimes it might just be a little footbridge like the one here. Sometimes it might be like the Verrazano Narrows or the Brooklyn Bridge or something like that, but it's really big and impressive. Financial aid is meant to get you there. A couple things to know as well before we go. There is an assumption from the government, because the government is the #1 provider of financial assistance. There is an assumption that parents have an obligation to have a certain level of financial responsibility in their students' education. Does that mean, mom or dad, you have to pay for your kids' education? Absolutely not. Does that mean that it's all the school's responsibility? Absolutely not. Really, that means parents, at the very least, your information needs to be on the form, so we can try and make it as fair as possible for this situation. It does allow us as institutions, though, to make exceptions. We call those special circumstances or professional judgment. That could be if the circumstances have changed. We can see about making adjustments to that. When it comes to regulations, whoever is really giving the money gets to make the rules. So if it's state money, it's coming from HIA, the Wisconsin Higher Education Agency Board. If it's federal, it's the Department of Education. They make the rules that go towards most types of aid. If it's through columns, columns gets to make the call with that, what the criteria is and how it's given out. It's got to be as fair as possible. So each program may have unique requirements, but it's got to apply evenly to all schools, okay? Again, this is trying to level the playing field as much as possible. So when we're figuring out financial aid, we first have to figure out cost of attendance, okay? Every school is going to have a different cost of attendance. And you could have two people attending the same school who have different costs of attendance. Your tuition and fees is going to be the same, but if one person is living on campus and one person is living off campus, they're going to have different room and board costs, okay? There's going to be transportation costs that we build in. There's going to be books and supply costs. There's going to be just living expenses costs. We hope people buy shampoo or put gas in the car or things like that. The government basically said, here are some round numbers that you can put into a budget to create a cost of attendance for the school and for that individual student. Everyone is encouraged to fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. That's the actual form. And the FAFSA tells us an expected family contribution. It's really what the government expects the family to theoretically be able to pay for the child's education, okay? Now, don't really attach that dollar amount to that, though, because that's really the number that we use to help figure out the aid that you qualify for. If you get a $17,000, if the expected family contribution is $17,000, that doesn't mean you have to pay $17,000 for your son or daughter to go to school. That's kind of where you fall into the bracket. But it's based on, the expected family contribution is based on the FAFSA information. Income, assets, family size, number of college, age of the parents, the state that you live in is factored in. How much you have in sitting in the bank, things like that. It really falls into 4 categories though. Parent income, parent assets, student income, and student assets. Now, some students don't have any assets. They don't have any money saved up, or they don't have an income, or they didn't have an income in the year that the FAFSA is based on. That's fine. Sometimes students don't have parents, at least according to the FAFSA. That's fine. And then it's based on 3 or 4 or one of the items. We figure out financial need though by really just taking the cost of attendance, subtract out the expected family contribution, and that's your financial need. That's how every student can have a different financial need, and your financial need can vary quite a bit when you go from school to school. Okay? School number 1 here could be Marion. If we're a private school, yeah, our sticker price is higher. School number 2 could be Unity Milwaukee. Public school, not as expensive as a private school, but it's still a 4-year institution that you might live on campus. Number 3 though could be Marine Park Technical College. You're not gonna live at home there, or you're not gonna live on campus there, you're gonna live at home, and there's just a tuition cost there. Your expected family contribution though is exactly the same, okay? Your ability to pay doesn't change regardless of where your child's going to school. Your ability to pay is your ability to pay. So you'd have a high financial need at Marion, you'd have a moderate financial need at Unity Milwaukee, you'd have a low financial need at Marine Park. So don't worry so much about the sticker price when you're looking at schools. Focus on, I hate it when people say they can't afford a school before they do the FAFSA. Okay, do the FAFSA first. That's going to help you determine if you can afford it. So what do you have to do in order to get financial aid? First, you have to be admitted to the school. Now, that's fine if you're looking at a school and they're not going to let you know about admission until February. You can still do the FAFSA now. The school just can't give you anything until February. That's perfectly fine if you haven't applied yet anywhere. That's perfectly fine if you end up changing your mind after you've done the FAFSA and you want to look at a different school that you haven't even been considering today or in October when you do the FAFSA. Perfectly fine. Schools just can't give anything to you until you're admitted. Second, we do need students and parents to get an FSA ID, Federal Student Aid ID. It's your electronic signature with the FAFSA. Basically, it's a username and password. Okay? Now, it's not difficult to get. I really hope it's not to the point where, you're really going to have a strong embrace because you finally got that done. But you can get the FSA ID anytime, and it's theoretically good for a lifetime, or good for as long as they decide to go with the username and password model. Parents, if you had a PIN number for your FAFSA at some point, either with an older child or with yourself, this replaced the PIN number. Number 3 is complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. There's a screenshot there of the paper copy. You could do a paper copy, but the online version is how 99.9% of people do it. And we're going to go through a lot of the steps on that. Section 4, check with the school to see if they have anything individually that you need to fill out. Some schools have their own financial aid form that they need you to complete. You might have been selected for verification, so school may want to double check your work on your FAFSA, and you might have to fill out a form. For that school, you might have to fill out that form for every school. Double check to make sure that you're meeting any deadlines with that as well. Okay? Timelines. October 1st is when you can first do the FAFSA for the 23-24 school year. Okay? If you've already completed the FAFSA and you're a senior, you did the wrong year. Okay? Unless you're going to be going to school college this spring. Make sure you're checking to see if schools have their own deadline. Different colleges and universities have their own deadline. Most schools have a soft deadline. We prefer you have it in by December 1st or by March 13th, March 15th or something like that. Some schools have hard deadlines though, we're not gonna give you any aid unless we have to, you know, unless the government says we have to give it to you after April 15th or something like that. Just double check with that. So I recommend applying early. That's fine if you don't know exactly where you're going. Just get the FAFSA done because the FAFSA filing date can be the most important thing on that. You do have to do the FAFSA every year, so keep that in mind. And again, it's gonna look a little bit different next year, so just a heads up on that. For the fall of 2023, the 23-24 school year, you're gonna be using 2021's tax information. Because as of October 1st, as of next Saturday, 2021, actually this Saturday, oh my gosh, where is September going? As of this Saturday, 2021 is the most recent tax information that you'd have, okay? If you don't have your taxes done, that's okay, you can do estimates. If you're gonna file later on, you can go back and adjust the information, or if you're not going to file, you can use estimates as well. So I mentioned the FSA ID, that you need to get that. When I say you, I mean the student needs an FSA ID and one of the parents needs an FSA ID, okay? Like I said, this is a username and password. You sign in, you create a username, you sign, or you register your email and a phone number, okay? Don't use the same phone number as parents and students. Okay, every once in a while, your mom will say, hey, I'm just gonna sign up my kid because they're never gonna do this. And then they end up using their email for theirs and for their kid because they wanna get the emails about it. Well, you just created a big mess then because it's gonna think you're the same person and that gets really tangled. Don't use the same phone number either, obviously, that's a little more rare that people try and use the same one. But also, parents, only one of you has to do it, assuming it's a parent that's providing, you know, helping provide the most support. Both parents don't have to do it. Parents, if you've already had a child that's gone to college and you got an FSA ID already, you already have an FSA ID then. If you forgot the information, that's totally fine. You can just reactivate the information or you can get your password back. I do recommend, and I'm sorry there's an IT person here who's listening, write this information down, okay? We don't put it somewhere that it could get stolen, but it is really important information that you're gonna need to know every year. Couple tips with what to use on it as well. Students, don't use your school email address. That's gonna get cut off at some point. Parents, I don't recommend using your a work email address either. Although it's a lot more plausible that parents are gonna be at the same job in 4 years than students still being in high school in 4 years. You're still gonna be here in high school in 4 years. I don't know what you're doing in the financial aid presentation tonight because something's not going right then. So a couple tips, like I said, there's a couple different places that you could use the FSA ID. It's not just for signing the FAFSA, it could be signing back into the FAFSA to make any kind of corrections. It's used as your federal signature on a couple of different things relating to student financial aid. The FAFSA then is actually filed at the same place, studentaid.gov. You would just go here, this is a screenshot of the FAFSA from last week, the FAFSA website. Click on the create account to create an FSA ID, click on the login to start the FAFSA. You can log in as a student or as a parent, okay? If you log in as a parent, it says, okay, who's your student? If you log in as a student, okay, they're gonna ask for parent information in a little bit. Students though, I'm really glad you're here because section 1, you're gonna know all this stuff off the top of your head. The only thing you might not know off the top of your head is your social security number. You will learn that pretty quickly. The other thing that I don't think I'd be impressed if you have memorized is your driver's license number. Everything else you should know. You should know if you're married. okay? I would hope you know. You should know your address. I've seen people struggle with that. Thankfully, they recently moved. But you should know things like your phone number, your email address, your birth date. If you're working on a master's or doctorate or undergrad or a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, if you are a senior in high school right now, you're going to be working on an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, okay? You're also going to know what year in school you're going to be this fall. In college, you're going to be a first-year student, never attended. That's fine if you've got credits coming in. You're going to be a freshman when it comes to applying for aid. Section 2 is school selection. They want to know what high school you graduated from or graduating from. So they ask for some information about that. They also want to know, where do you want to send your FAFSA to? You can send your FAFSA up to 10 different colleges and universities. That's perfectly fine if you're casting a wide net right now and you want to send it to 10 different schools, okay? There's not a big deal about the order that you have them sent to because we can't see what other schools you have to send to. The one thing though is, put your top choices in the top 5, okay? There's a little bit of a lag in the bottom 5 to get it. The top 5 get it faster, okay? So it's really not a big deal though. You can either type in, like, select the state, pick the city, and pick the school name there, or you could use a short code. Every school is probably going to start bombarding you with, hey, here's a FAFSA code in the next couple of weeks, okay? It's something simple like 003861, which also happens to be Marion University's code. That's 003861. That's pretty much all the plugging I'm going to do. And you can pick whether you're going to live on campus, off campus, or with parents for that, okay? Now, the difference between off campus and with parents is you're going to live with mom and dad, or maybe you're going to live with an aunt and uncle, your grandma, or something like that. Off campus is you're getting an apartment somewhere, okay? But if you can go back and change this is the number one reason why people go back and amend the FAFSA, is changing the school line, or sending it to a new school, or taking off schools. Easy, really easy. Section 3 is dependency status. This again is stuff that I hope you know off the top of your head, okay? This is going to be stuff like, what is your marital status as of today? Marital status, not relationship status, okay? This is going to know if you have children. I would hope you know that, okay? Children you're supported. Do you have dependents other than a child or a spouse? Are you in active duty in the military? Are you a veteran? Were you in foster care, or were you an orphan or ward of the court? Are you in danger of being homeless, as declared by like school or a homeless shelter, something like that? If you answer no to all of the questions on here in section 3, then you are going to be a dependent student, and we're going to need parent information on the FAFSA. If you say yes to any of them, then you're independent, and we do not need parent information on the FAFSA. However, if you say yes to any of them, the school may follow up and say, we need some documentation to show that, okay? Section 4 then is parent information, parent demographic information. Students, I expect you to know a lot of this, but I don't expect you to know your parents' social security numbers. I actually kind of cringe a little bit when students sit down and type in their parents' social security numbers right away. It's like, how do you know that? Actually, no, I don't want to know how you know that. I've got plausible deniability. It's going to ask, though, for parents' birth dates, though. So, no pressure, kid, if you have mom sitting next to you and you're going to fill in her information. Okay? Be good to your mamas and your dads. Figure out the year they were born. And I hope you know the day they were born. You might ask, though, you might be wondering who's considered a parent. Okay? If you're a standard nuclear family, mom and dad in the household, then they're both parents, okay? If there's been some kind of divorce or separation, it's the parent that you're living with the most that should be included. Doesn't matter who's claiming who on taxes, doesn't matter who's paying for insurance or anything like that, okay? The parent that you're living with the most is the one that gets included. If that parent is remarried, step-parent information gets included as well. Because the FAFSA is really trying to figure out what's the family's financial situation, what's the household's financial situation looking like, okay? Again, just because step-parent's information is on there doesn't mean step-parent has to pay. One question though that does get people tripped up is how many people are in the household, okay? I know this sounds like a really simple question, but some of it's because of the way it's worded, some of it's because, I don't know, do we actually count them? It knows if you put mom and dad's information on here and there's a student, it knows there's 3 already, okay? And then it says, how many other dependent children do your parents have? Okay, other younger siblings, or maybe older siblings, that parents, they're still your dependents, okay? Put in a number there. Are there other dependents that your parents have though, outside of other children? Okay, this is if there's a grown child that's living at home. They might not really be a child anymore, but mom or dad, you're taking care of them, you're supporting them. This could be, do you have like grandparents that are living with you? I had one person who filled it out, who said, well, do I count my uncles? Your uncles live with you? Yeah. Well, are they like supporting themselves, or like who's supporting them? Mom? Do they work? No. What do they do? Mom supports them. Oh, yeah, the uncle should be included. Yeah. We need some documentation on that, but so this could be a little bit more than that. It also asks how many of the people are in college. Okay. So this is where if you have multiple kids that are in college, you should be reporting that. Parents, though, if you are in college, first off, great, good for you. Secondly, you don't get to count yourself on your students' FAFSA as being in college. That's something that we as a school have to determine. Okay, that's considered a special circumstance. Parents abused the privilege back in the day. They went to the technical college and signed up for a bartending class that cost $30 and said, I'm a college student. No, you're not. You're taking a bartending class. Good for you that you're, doing that, but you're not a college student. Section 5, parent financial information. It's going to ask, hey, have you already completed your tax return? If so, what kind of tax return did you file? It's probably some kind of 1040. Did you file a joint return? Or did you file a single? Or did you file as head of the household? How did you file it? Most people are going to be able to do that in IRS data retrieval. It's going to say, hey, do you want to proceed to the IRS with this? Do you want to just take the information off your taxes and have the government put it on your FAFSA for you? Yes, you do. Okay, because 1, you get to skip a whole bunch of questions then, and 2, we know the information is accurate. Now, if you filed an amended return, or if you're married but you filed separate tax returns, you can't do this, and that's fine. But if you did file a joint tax return, that's the information that's going to be going off onto it. It's going to bring over a lot of zeros, frankly. It doesn't even let you see it though, because of 2 reasons. 1 is a security thing, so that sometimes people feel a little unsure about letting their children see their financial information. That's fine. Also, sometimes parents would look at that information and say, no, that's not right. I'm going to change that. No, that's what you reported, so that better be right. Okay? You got a different problem, so that's wrong. One thing, though, that it doesn't transfer over is parents. If you're married, if you filed a joint tax return, the IRS doesn't care what mom made and what dad made. They just want to know what the couple made. FAFSA does want to know what one parent made and what the other parent made. The reason for that is we may have to do some special circumstances down the road. Say if dad loses a job or something like that. We need to know whose information to adjust. So on the FAFSA, we want to split out what's parent 1, what's parent 2. Section 6 is student information, student tax information or financial information. Students, if you did not file a tax return in 2021, that's perfectly fine. Still asks how much you earned in the year. 0 is an acceptable number if you didn't earn anything. Section 6 then is signing the FAFSA. If you've already put in your FSA IDs, great. It's just going to say, sign my FAFSA now. You click on a button. If you haven't put in your FSA IDs, it asks you to put them in there. This is why it's good, though, to get your FSA ID early. Get that before you sit down and do the FAFSA. Because it can take up to 72 hours for your FSA ID to be processed. Okay? I don't want you sitting down Saturday morning and saying, we're going to get this done. We get your FSA ID, and then you find out you can't actually use it until Monday. Okay? I don't want to ruin that momentum. So, get your FSA ID beforehand, and then do the FAFSA. A couple other things that I kind of glossed over. It asks for how much you have in the bank. You know, basically how much you have in cash, savings, and checking. Okay. Just get a pretty good idea of what you have there. Okay. It also asks for how much you have in investments. This is where you include any kinds of stocks or bonds or property that you own other than the home you live in. Okay? Net value of that though. Okay? If you own a piece of rental property that's worth $100,000, but you have an $80,000 mortgage on it, you only have a $20,000 piece of property. Okay? If you have a CD that is worth $1,000, it will be worth $1,000 when it matures, but you only you have to take a 50% penalty on it if you cash it in now. You only have $500. Okay, keep that kind of thing in mind for any kind of bonds or certificate of deposits or things like that. You can look that up online. It's really easy to do. When you're done, you're going to get something that looks like this. It's a student aid report, and it's like your confirmation that you were done. Okay? It's going to say, congratulations, student aid. It's going to tell you your expected family contribution right then and there. It's going to tell you if you qualify for any Pell Grant, how much you qualify for. It's also going to tell you how much you qualify for in student loans. It's up to the school, though, to actually award that to you. There is an app to be able to do it, or at least there has been an app. Honestly, I haven't seen it on the Google Play Store, so I'm not 100% certain on that. I do recommend doing the FAFSA on an actual computer instead of on a phone or a tablet. If you do have to make changes to your FAFSA, you can go back in. Go back to studentaid.gov, click on the login, and you make corrections to a process FAFSA. Again, people do this all the time to add schools to your FAFSA, okay? Or add schools to their FAFSA. You also can submit documentation to schools for making adjustments. Like, let's say you realize, oh my gosh, we reported that we had $10,000 in the bank, and we actually only have $100. We misplaced a zero there, or a decimal point there. Yeah, let the school know. We can see about making changes to that. There is something called College Goal Wisconsin. College Goal is free help on doing the FAFSA if you don't want to do this alone. There is one here on October 17th at 6 p.m. We'll have volunteers here from a few different financial aid offices, a lot of people from the counseling office here. There's also online events on the 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th. Those are all Wednesdays. That's virtually at 6 p.m. You don't have to register for the in-person, but we appreciate it if you register. Go to collegegoalwi.org and you can sign up so that we just have an idea of how many people are going to be there. If you want to do this online, you have to register in advance so that you get the link to it. College Goal is great though because it is free help on doing the FAFSA. There will be people who know what they're doing. They will also, about 15 different people who attend a College Goal will end up doing a scholarship to help pay for students. okay, $1,000. So it's pretty good. And I'm speaking from experience with that because I'm not only a member, I'm also the president of College Gold. So I'll be here on the 16th. So let's switch gears a little bit. While we have a little bit of time, let's talk about some different types of financial aid. There's 4 main categories: scholarships, grants, loans, and student employment programs. They come from 3 main areas. The Department of Education, that's anything federal, HEAB, the Wisconsin Higher Education Aids Board for state, and the college and university there's gift aid, that's the free money, get as much of that as you can, scholarships and grants, okay? A few different kinds of grants, some federal grants, the Pell Grant, that's our federal tax dollars at work. That's free money from the federal government to try and help make school more affordable. You qualify for that by doing the FAFSA. Federal Supplemental Education Opportunities Grant, or SCOG, is additional grant money that you can get if you qualify for the Pell Grant, and usually if you apply early. But each school has a pot of that money, and they decide how to give that out. So they might give it to the earliest appliers, they might hold it out for specific people, or people who meet specific criteria. There's also state grants. The state has something called Wisconsin Grant. That's kind of Wisconsin's version of the Pell Grant. There's things called TIP Grant, which you'd have to do a separate application. Different colleges offer different scholarships or different grants. And there's outside scholarships, like things through columns or things through clubs, organizations you might belong to. Loans are something that you can qualify for as well. And the red and the orange are the federal direct student loans, either subsidized or unsubsidized. That's money that obviously you have to pay back, but that's money that you can get to help pay for school, that you're borrowing money from the federal government. Now, the subsidized and unsubsidized, that's the kind of thing that is right now eligible for some forgiveness. So depending on what you go into, there might be that possibility for it. Don't bank on any kind of loan forgiveness. Anything that you borrow, anticipate that you're going to have to pay that back. And you're probably going to have to pay that back with interest. Subsidized, though, is interest-free while you're in school. Well, after you leave school, interest will start to build on that. Unsubsidized starts to build interest right away. The green one, though, parent loan, or the PLUS loan. PLUS stands for parent loan for undergraduate students. That's money that mom or dad, you could borrow from the government, and you could help pay for your son or daughter's education. That's not going to end up being eligible for any kind of loan forgiveness. At least, I don't think it would be. Some institutions do have their own loan programs. There is a very tiny Wisconsin state loan program. And then there's private or alternative loans. That's the place that can be really easy to over-borrow and get on a slippery slope with that. So that's the biggest one that I say caution with that. But if you need it, it might be a good option. Sometimes people say, I don't know if I should take out a loan. Well, I usually say if you need to take it, but only take what you need, okay? If you have a way to pay for it without borrowing, pay for it without borrowing. But if you do need to have some relief with having that loan, go for it. There is no credit check with it. There's no cosigner needed. The way you apply is doing the FAFSA. Student employment is also an option as well. This is where a student can get a job on campus. They can earn a paycheck for the time that they work. Student employment can be great to get to know the campus a little bit better, to build up some job skills. Sometimes it's students' first time they've ever gotten a job. It's a good way to make extra money. Some schools have you work off part of what you owe to them. Most schools will pay you in a paycheck for the time that you work. So, how do you compare college financial aid offers? Well, I've had people who've said to me, hey, this other school offered us $1,000 more. Could you give us $1,000 more? You know, give us $1,000 more, we're going to commit. I said, what school? Well, they cost $10,000 more than you did. Well, yeah, I know, but they gave us $1,000 more than you did. Yeah, it's still cheaper to come here, even though we didn't offer as much money, because they cost more. Take the tuition and fees add in any room and board costs that you're gonna be owing to the school, subtract out any grants or scholarships and student loans if you're taking the loans out. And that's gonna be your net cost, okay? That's the bottom line that you're gonna be owing to the school for the year or for the semester. Find out how they're gonna be charging. Remember though, don't subtract out any kind of federal work study or campus work program, because you actually have to work to earn that. And either you're gonna be working off what you owe or you're gonna get paid. You can't guarantee that you're gonna have that until you actually do it. Check out other financing options. Most schools do have some kind of payment plan program where you don't owe the whole year right up front, the whole semester right up front. You could look at private loans or home equity loans, depending on your financial situation. If you have like an Invest or a 529 plan or a cover deal savings account, then this is what you have it for. If you qualify for veterans education benefits too, that could be a great way. Sometimes those could be transferred. There are some other government resources as well. I usually say with this page, if you know about it, it might be something that you can qualify for and you can do. If you've never heard of it, you might not qualify for it. Not sure if you're Native American enough for a Bureau of Indian Affairs grant. You're probably not Native American enough for a Bureau of Indian Affairs grant. Check out other resources though, clubs, organizations that you belong to. This is for parents, students, and grandparents, okay? Any kind of labor organization or any kind of club or organization, church group, religious group, civic group. When I was in high school, I worked at a grocery store. The grocery store didn't have a scholarship, but they're part of the Wisconsin Grocers Association. They had one. So, check around places like that. I didn't get it when I was in high school, but I at least got to apply for it. My coworker got it. She was the other high schooler that was working there. I'm doing better than her now, so, it evens out. I do have a fear that I'm gonna actually say that joke at some point, and she's gonna come up to me afterwards. Yeah, these are my kids, and they're not going to your school now. But, obviously be checking with columns, be checking with places that you bank or places that you have insurance through as well. Sometimes they're not with columns. Columns is an incredible organization. I believe there's gonna be another night for how you apply for all of that. Perfect, go to that. Apply for anything that you might be able to apply for, okay? But columns, even though it's the best, and I do mean this, it's the best local scholarship organization in the state, hands down. They still don't have everything, okay? So do a little bit of legwork on your own, checking with places of employment, checking with places that you bank or if you have insurance. Can't hurt to check through websites like FastWeb or Going Merry. Going Merry is nice because they do have some FAFSA help built into that as well. Going Merry is a little bit like Target. FastWeb is kind of like Walmart. They both probably have everything. Just what experience do you like more? Also, a couple things about differentiating different offices. Financial aid office, every school has one. We're the people that give out money. We're the people that help you find scholarships or help you get loans to help pay for the balance. We're the people that you go to if you have special circumstances that can help you adjust your FAFSA information. The bursar's office, or the business office at school, they're the ones that actually want your money. They're the jerks. No, I'm kidding. They're the people that actually are going to take the payment. They're going to give you the refund check then if you're getting the refund, like if you borrow more money than you need. They're going to be the people that are going to help you set up payment plans. They can be really nice that way. They're also the ones that send out 1098-T forms, the tax forms. So don't call us in January if you haven't gotten it. Call them for bursar's office, or business office. A couple frequently asked questions. One of them, you have to update your FAFSA with your 2022 information when you get those taxes done. Absolutely not. The FAFSA for the 23-24 school year is always going to use your 2021 tax information. Whose parents do you use if there's a divorce? Well, it's basically the parent that's providing the most support. If that parent is remarried, then we need step parents' information. If your biological parents are living together but not married, we need both parents' information on there. That either could be because they never got married, that could be because there's been a separation or divorce, but you're still living in the same house. Because, the housing market isn't great right now. So for whatever reason. Do you need to include your parents' information on the FAFSA? Probably. Just keep in mind that when you file a tax return, you get a choice whether you're dependent or independent, okay? When you file the FAFSA figures that out for you, okay? So keep that in mind. If you're a student not living with your parents, could be a situation where you're actually an independent student though. Like if you've been a foster child, or parents, if you have foster children living in your home, or if you're a student and you're living with your grandparents, that might be a legal guardianship situation, so you don't have to include their information. No one looks like grandparent age here though, good looking. Or if you're living with friends, are you in danger of being homeless? Maybe talk to the school about getting that documented. Or parents, if you have one of your kids' friends couch surfing in your house, they might need a little bit of guidance on that. Direct them towards us in financial aid office, we can help that out. Some people have said like they're gonna spend their investments so that they don't have to report it on the FAFSA. I really don't recommend doing that because you're probably gonna need something to pay for school anyways. And then just blowing the money doesn't help anything. But spending it on school, if you do have money in like a college savings account and then you report that on the FAFSA and you don't have as much the next year, that's gonna help your FAFSA situation the next year. Also, if you have a small business, you have less than 100 employees, you don't count the value of the business, okay? You only count that if you have more than 100 employees. We're talking people here. If you have over 100 candidates, good for you, that doesn't count. Keep in mind as well, there are limits on what you can borrow as far as loans go, and there are limits on how many semesters you can get the federal and state rates. Keep that in mind, okay? Try and get done with school in as timely manner as possible. Now that doesn't mean you have to get done in 4 years, if you're going for a 4-year degree. That means, try not to school hop, okay? If you want to start out at a 2-year school and then transfer to a 4-year school, good for you. That's mine. But try not to transfer a second time or a third time or a fourth time or a fifth time. It's gonna put you in school for a long time, okay? College is great. Get a job at college if you really like being there, like work there after you graduate. That's a much better way to spend your whole life in college, like some people do. I don't know anything. Try and choose your major by the end of the first year. Undeclared is a great major to start out with at the beginning of your freshman year. It's a horrible major to have at the end of your senior year, okay? It's fine if you want to start out figuring things out. Perfectly natural because most people change their major anyways. Better to start out undeclared and go a little more general than to waste a bunch of credits in something that you're still trying to figure out what you want to do than your sophomore, your junior year. Take as many classes as you can handle as well. We have it, you're full-time if you're between 12 and 18 credits. And if you stay at 15 credits, you're gonna stay on track for graduation. It frustrates me to no end when people only take 12 credits and then complain that school's so expensive because they're gonna have to be here another semester. Like, well, you did that to yourself because you basically are building in that you have to be here another semester. If that's what you need, that's perfectly fine. But take as many as you can handle to get it done as soon as you can. So a couple recaps. Financial aid is really meant to be a bridge. It's not meant to just completely pay for school. It's not meant to just parents have to dole out all the money themselves. Look at apples to apples when you're comparing school costs, okay? What's the bottom line going to be after taking into consideration? Make sure you're completing all forms on time and let anyone who works in financial aid know if you have questions. Because remember, schools can interpret rules a little bit differently if you're submitting special circumstances. You might get one answer from one school and a completely different answer from another school, and that's okay. If you do have questions though that you want to ask in front of everyone and for live stream, let me know. Does anyone have any questions? I cannot blame you. It would have been really great if you would have said something. If you do have questions that you want to ask one-on-one, I'll stick around as long as you have them. Anything else?
I do. You mentioned this scholarship like informational evening, and that will be published in an email tomorrow, but keep your calendar open if you want to go for December 5th in the auditorium. That'll come out in your email tomorrow as well.
I highly recommend you being here on December 5th. A lot of great information. Apply for everything you can get. Because the more money you get in scholarships, the less money you're going to have to pay, or the less money you're going to have to borrow. Thanks for coming, everybody. Have a great night. Get home safe.